In this video, we're going to talk about conditionals in Java. Okay, so for conditionals, I want to show you a couple things real quick, and we're going to jump right into how to make if-else's and switch statements in Java. When you see me from now on in these projects, I'm going to have my headers folded to give me more room on the screen, and I'll have the project basically set up. So that'll save us some time, makes these videos a little bit shorter and easier to jump right to what we need to play with. So we need something on which we can make a decision. So we're just going to use my favorite int. We'll say selection and set the value of 4 into that memory location. All right, it's obviously warning us it's not used. That's a little comforting to me at this point. When I see I've created a variable and it's warning me, it kind of tells me that my colorization's right and nothing else is going wrong. All right, a basic if-else construct. Now, from the other languages we've already covered in my courses, you should know that you can have an if by itself, or you can have an if-else. In Python, you have this thing called elif. That does not exist in Java. It's either if-else, or some nested version of those, or what's called a switch. Okay, and a switch statement, some people call them case statements, you'll see why. But basically a switch statement, in Java, it wasn't always part of the language. As of, I believe it's this version of Java, it is now officially part of the Java language, and it's here to stay. But let's start with an if-else construct. Okay, this looks just like the language C. If selection is less than 12, let's say, we're going to system out print line selection was less than 12. In fact, it was colon quote plus selection. Okay, semicolon. And then, and this is kind of the style that you'll see in else done. And here I'm just going to copy that. And in here we're going to say was greater than 12. Okay? And if we run this, selection was less than 12. In fact, it was 4. And if I change this to 24 and run it, selection was greater than 12. And why did it print? Oh. Let's try that again. There we go. Don't need that stray information. Okay? Although I certainly could have put it in there, but I wanted this just to be selection was greater than 12. That is an if-else statement. It's just not any harder than that. You can put if statements inside of these and nest them until you generate so many logic errors it makes your head spin. So I would keep them basic and keep them simple. Okay? If you need more than an if and an else, you need to at least consider a switch statement. Okay? Now, switch statements, like I said, are permanently part of Java. So we're going to put one in, and we're going to do it pretty quick. So switch statements are now a permanent part of Java. Yay. Okay. We're going to switch on selection. Selection. Okay, and we're going to need a big old block of code for these. And we're going to start with case, it's 1. So if it's 1, I'm going to do the following. Now, I don't need braces for each case because it's going to start at the first command and fall through till it hits a break and then go out of the switch. If I don't have my break statements because I forget them, it's going to do everything from where it jumps in all the way to the end. Okay, so I'm going to I need to steal an SOP. So let's just say, in fact, I'm going to put it right on the line. Selection was whoops, that's the one I wanted to keep. Selection was 1. And then I'm going to come over here and say break. Okay, my students know that's the only place I ever want to see a break. Anywhere in your code is in a switch. Now I'm going to do this, Control C. Here's what's beautiful about switches. Control V, Control V, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll just go through 8. And I can move these over, make them look pretty. Code readability is a big deal. Obviously, it's complaining because I can only have one case for each value. So it's going to complain about that. I know it, so I'm not worried about it. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and let's fix this so I see the right values. Okay, and if it's none of the above, I want to have a default. Okay, so it's going to basically say to me, selection was not 1 through 8. Okay, and that's it. So it's going to do some printout here based on what it is. Let's say, well, let's leave it at 24 and see what we get. It was greater than 12 and it was not 1 through 8. So now let's put it back to 4. Save it and run. And this time we get selection was 4. Okay. Now let's make it 9 so that it's within the if. Yep, it was 9 and it was not 1 through 8. Let's change it to 3 and do one more to show that it's all working. And sure enough, it is picking out the correct statement. So there you have a switch statement. Very, very powerful. I love switch statements. To me, they're just a lot cleaner than if-else's. The other point I'm going to make is if you have just an if, you can put a single executional line without the braces around it, and it will still execute that first line. Don't do it. The reason I say that is you may come back and need to add a second statement somewhere in there. It's just a lot cleaner if you have the braces so that you don't suddenly get confused as to where execution is supposed to jump. Okay? Because the computer is going to do exactly what you tell it. So if you put another statement and you don't have those braces, okay, it's only going to execute the first one, or it could execute very strange, especially if you have nested if-else's. So you're going to see me as a whole, I always use the braces for the block of code that I want it to go into. If this is true, it's going into this block of code. If it's false, it's going into this block of code. It's just cleaner. Okay? That is conditionals in Java. So hopefully now you've got a good understanding of the if-else, and the switch statements in the language Java. In the next video, we're going to begin a 3-part series dealing with iteration. See you on the other side.